This video is about biology. Hello, my name is Sergio, and my team and I today will explain you 6 topics about biology. I hope you like the video. Enjoy!
Hi, good evening. My name is Hello Montaño Quince, and I'm going to be explaining the first two topics of activity, the cell and the characteristics of living things. The cells are pretty much like the blocks for building of every living being, such as humans. The type of cells include the prokaryotic and eukaryotic. Prokaryotic cells and eukaryotic cells are the two main types of cells found in living organisms. Prokaryotic cells are simple, single-cell organisms such as bacteria. They are small in size and lack nucleus and other membrane-bound organelles. Instead, the DNA in prokaryotic cells is located in a single circular chromosome that is not enclosed by nuclear membrane. Prokaryotic cells also have a cell wall and a cell membrane, which helps to protect the cell and maintain its shape. In eukaryotic cells, on the other hand, are found in multicellular organisms such as animals, plants, and fungi. They are larger in size and more complex than prokaryotic cells, and contain a nucleus and other membrane-bound organelles. The nucleus is a membrane-bound organelles. This nucleus membrane is bound structure that contains the cell's genetic material, DNA, and it's a control center of the cell. Eukaryotic cells also contain other organelles such as mitochondria, which is the one that is responsible for generating energy for the cell, and ribosomes, which produces proteins, and endoplasmic reticulum and Golgi apparatus, which are involved in protein synthesis and modification. To summarize everything, you can say that prokaryotic cells are simple and lack a nucleus, while eukaryotic cells are more complex and contain a nucleus and other organelles. Then with the second topic, the characteristics of living things. Just as cells make up a body and every living thing, this has some characteristics. Living things have several characteristics that distinguish them from non-living things. These include, number one, organization. Living things are highly organized structures, composed of cells, tissue, organs, and systems that work together to maintain life. They have a metabolism. Living things have the ability to maintain and use energy to sustain their life process. This includes processes such as respiration, digestion, and circulation. Growth and development. Living things grow and change over time. They often through a predictable life cycle. They also have the ability to develop and mature, adapting to the changes in their environment. Responsiveness. Living things have the ability to respond to stimuli, such as changes in temperature, light, or touch. Reproduction. Living things have the ability to reproduce offspring, either sexually or asexually, ensuring the continuation of their species. Evolution. Living things have the ability to evolve over time, adapting to changes in the environment and passing off the beneficial traits to their offspring to make it easier for them to survive. Homeostasis. Living things maintain a stable internal environment, even when their external environment changes. This includes regulation of the temperature, pH, and other factors that are necessary for survival. Overall, the characteristics of living things reflect the complex and dynamic nature of life, and demonstrate the ability of living organisms to interact with, adapt to, and survive in their environment.
Hi, I'm Alfonso Peña, and I'm going to talk about the history of microscope and cell theory. In the late 16th century, a Dutch father and son pair named Hans and Zacharias Janssen made the first compound microscope. They placed one converging lens at the top and another at the bottom of a tube and observed that when looking through the cylinder, objects at the other end were magnified considerably. The function of the lenses was letting the right light passing through them to one point to another, making a big magnification like big objects. Then, in 1665, Robert Hooke designed a microscope made up of three lenses. The instrument consisted of four tubes inside a 50 cm long cylinder. He used a small biconvex ocular lens at the top, then a convex flat field lens, and finally another biconvex lens at the end of the tube. To improve the quality of the image, he passed the light generated by an oil lamp through a flask filled with water. which allows to diffuse and illuminate the sample. Then, in 1665, a Dutchman in Delft who was making a living cell in cloth made fascinating discoveries of his own. Anton van Leeuwenhoek was a master of making spherical lenses of exceptional quality, which he placed between two metal plates filled with adjustable screws that allow him to focus the specimen. This design perfected the simple microscope. With these homemade microscopes and his extraordinary interest in the living world, Leeuwenhoek observed everything that fell into his hands: wool, sheep, stirring of bees, encephalic mass of a fly's head, their hair's hay, and he found tiny forms of life which he called animalcula. Today we know that we are bacterium producers. He was the first person in the world that could watch these things, these little living things. The work of them led to the discovery of the cell and microorganisms, which has been the basis for the work of many other scientists ever since. Now the cell theory. Cell theory has been one of the most significant generalizations in biology. This theory proposed that all living things, regardless of their difference, have in common that they are made up of cells. This suggests, among other things, that there is an evolutionary kinship between all living things, and that this kinship is given through the fundamental unit of life, the cell, was proposed by Matthias Schleiden. Almost 200 years ago, after Leeuwenhoek observed the first living cells, several scientists proposed that all living things, from clover to human beings, are composed of the same thing, cells. In 1858, Rudolf Virchow, a German physician and pathologist, carried out a series of research studies on cancerous tissues that allow him to demonstrate that every cell comes from a previous. In other words, the plant cell can only come from another plant cell and the animal cell from another animal cell. In this way, Virchow contributed information to the cell theory that Schwann's proposal didn't include. Later, Louis Pasteur confirmed Virchow's proposal with his experiments on cell multiplication. The work of these scientists led them to propose a series of characteristics that all cells share, whether they are a group of microorganisms that help brew beer on the part of a large tree in Chipinque. These propositions help to unify the concept of the cell as the fundamental unit of life and are now a cell theory, which is based in the following four postulates. First one, all living things are made up of cells. Second one, it is the physiological unit of every living being. Third one, all cells come from another pre-existing cell. And the fourth one, the cell contains an hereditary material, DNA, for all its morphological and physiological characteristics, which will be passed on to his offspring cells. So that's my part, cell theory and history microscope. Bye.
In biology, cells transport substances across their membranes to maintain homeostasis and support their functions. The different forms of cell transport include passive transport, that is the movement of substances across the cell membrane without required energy. Examples include simple diffusion and osmosis. Active transport, that is the movement of substances across the cell membrane against a concentration gradient, using energy, for example, the pumping of ions against their concentration gradient by transmembrane proteins. Simple diffusion, that is the movement of substances from an area of high concentration to an area of lower concentration without required energy. Osmosis, that is a type of passive transport that specifically involves the diffusion of water molecules across a selectively permeable membrane, from an area of high concentration to an area of low concentration. Facilitated diffusion, there is a form of passive transport that uses transmembrane proteins to transport substances across the cell membrane, from an area of high concentration to an area of low concentration. Endocytosis, this is the process where the cell membrane invaginates to form a vesicle, which then includes and binds substances into the cell. There are two main types of endocytes: phagocytosis, when involved the engulfment of solid particles, and pinocytosis, which involve the uptake of fluids. Endocytosis. This is the process by which the cell transports substances over the cell, by expelling them in vesicles that fuse with the cell membrane and release their content outside the cell.
Hello, my name is Jack Santiago, and today I will be going to explain the levels of organization. In biology, the levels of organization refer to a hierarchy of structural complexity in living organisms. These levels range from simple structures such as cells to complex structures such as ecosystems. The following are the levels of organization in living organisms. First, we have the cellular level. This is the smallest unit of the organization in living organisms and refers to the individual cell. Tissue level. Tissues are composed of similar cells that work together to perform a specific function. Number 3, organ level. Organs are composed of different tissues that work together to perform a specific function. Again, for example, the heart is an organ composed of muscle tissues, connective tissues, and epitheelial tissues. Organ system level. Organ systems are composed of different organs that work together to perform a specific function. For example, cardiovascular system composed of heart blood vessels and blood is responsible for circulating blood through the body. Organs level. This is the highest level of organization and refers to the entire living organism, such as a human, plant, or an animal, any living thing. And next we have the homeostasis. Homeostasis refers to the ability of living organisms to maintain a stable internal environment in response to changes in external conditions. This stability is necessary for the survival and proper functioning of the organism. For example, the human body maintains a stable body temperature around 37 C through homeostasis mechanisms, such as sweating when it's too hot or shivering when it's too cold. Homeostasis is maintained by a complex network of feedback mechanisms that monitor changes in the internal environment and respond with inappropriate adjustments. These mechanisms include receptors that detect changes, control centers that integrate and processes the information, and effectors that carry out the necessary responses. Thank you for your attention. That's all.
Hi, my name is Javier, and I will talk about pregnancy, addictions, and obesity. Let's start. First, let's talk about pregnancy. Pregnancy is the state of carrying a developing embryo or fetus within the female reproductive system. It is a complex process that involves various physical and emotional changes, as well as the need for proper prenatal care to ensure a healthy pregnancy and baby. Getting pregnant is a big responsibility, so we always have to be responsible with our sexual life. And then let's talk about addictions. An addiction is a chronic condition characterized by compulsive drug seeking and use. Despite harmful consequences, it is a complex disorder that affects the brain and behavior, and can lead to various health and social problems. Addiction can be caused by various factors, including genetic, environmental, and social factors. And at least, obesity. Obesity is a medical condition characterized by excessive body fat accumulation that poses a risk to an individual's health. It is a complex disorder that can be caused by various factors, including genetics, environment, and lifestyle. Obesity is a major public health concern that can lead to various health problems, such as heart disease, diabetes, and stroke. That's it. Thanks for your attention.